Don't change that channel. This is What Retirement Means to You with financial advisor Jerry Means. He's the president and founder of the Means Financial Group, and I'm Spike Spengel. Jerry, how are you doing this week?
Spike, I couldn't be better. Life is great. My wife and I are doing really, really well. We're right now in full swing of the grandkids and sports. We actually went to a granddaughter's softball game last night. Keep in mind, she's 5. She had a couple meltdowns. It was not her best game, but she's a lot of fun to watch. And I've got a grandson that's already headed for the MLB. You know, he's going to be a Cardinals player, but he's only 7 right now. But in his mind, he's already there.
You look too young to be a grandfather yourself.
Yeah, I got a 12-year-old already looking to buy his first car. You know, hey, he knows he'll have to sit for 4 years, but he's just anxious to do it. So, and then we have another granddaughter as well that just started kindergarten and is pretty excited about that. So life is good at the Means house.
Well, it sounds like you have many, many branches of your own family tree. The name of the show is What Retirement Means to You, but you have a very specific angle of what you want to talk about today. And what is that?
So today I want to talk about what estate planning means to you. A lot of people get confused about what estate planning is. They think it's only for the wealthy, but it's not. It's really for everyone. Everyone should have some type of an estate plan. And one thing that we'll talk about today is, don't worry if you don't have one, the government has one for you, and that's called probate. And we want to make sure that we avoid that. So we'll talk about some of the pitfalls of that. But really, I just wanted to kind of get into some of the, bare essentials that should be discussed when it comes to estate planning.
And another reason why it is so important today, I remember a program we talked about last year. There's a concept today, and it's called the Great Wealth Transfer. This wonderful, amazing, hardworking baby boomer generation, as they move on to the next level of existence, that they're going to be passing their assets to the next generation. Last year, we talked about $84 or so trillion in assets. Is there an update to that number this year?
So over the next 20 years, they're expecting it to reach 120 million. You have to think about it, Spike. All of these baby boomers, right? They were the big wave of baby boomers, and now they're aging. And so we're going to see that wealth over the next 20 years transfer to the next generation. But it's only going to transfer with proper planning, because taxes are going to get more expensive. We're looking at inflation we've seen high inflation numbers the last few years. Healthcare planning, we have to make sure that they have a proper healthcare plan. And we want to make sure that they don't run out of money in retirement when every day is a Saturday. If they're going to live 18 years, 20 years, 30 years in retirement, how do you stretch out that nest egg? So all of those things come back to this big wealth transfer. If you don't make sure that you make it through retirement, there's no estate planning to leave behind. So we want to make sure that you make it through. But the time to talk about estate planning is right now. I mean, it's very, very important. It's not a fun topic. People try to put it off. But really, if you've never done an estate plan or had a conversation, the time to do it is now. I'll give you a perfect example. Everyone, I think, knows who Prince is, right? Great
Yes.
musician. When he passed away, his estate was worth $156 million. He had no estate plan. His family went through probate. It lasted 6 years. It was very expensive. It was a lot of heartache on the family. And some of the people that he employed were family members, and they couldn't have access to these investments to live off of. So it not only did they lose a family member, but some of them lost their livelihood. So it's very important to do estate planning. And the lesson from Prince is he thought he had plenty of time. Right? He died at a fairly young age. The time to do it is now. But estate planning isn't just for when you pass away. There's estate planning things that you should do for while you're living that we'll talk about. But what is an estate? What is estate planning? It's making sure that you pass on those assets to your loved ones with the least bit of expense, taxes, stress, and you want to make sure that it's privately transferred. That is what estate planning is. Or when you pass away, maybe you have a loved one that you're taking care of and you're afraid that who's going to take care of them when I'm gone? You can do that with estate planning, with setting up a proper estate plan. Maybe you have an adult child that you're taking care of at home, or a brother or sister, and you're saying, hey, when I'm gone, who's going to come in and make sure that they have all the necessities? We don't want to leave them a lump sum because they can't mentally take care of it, or it might mess up their insurance plan, things like that. That's all part of estate planning, Spike.
And it can be overwhelming. And it's sometimes not the greatest concept to be thinking about. As you said, estate planning, though, it's not just for what we're leaving behind. It's about protecting while we're here. So to maybe kick off the conversation for folks, make it a little bit easier, you've put together a quiz In this quiz is some questions in there. Don't worry if you don't get all of the questions correct for yourself. It's really to get you thinking and kind of moving in a direction of what types of things do you need to protect. So go to this right now, meanslegacy.com. Type that into your browser. Or if you want, you can scan this QR code over here with the camera in your phone. Point it down here, click on it, it'll take you over to there. And there are some fun things you can start talking about in there of where exactly do you want your assets to go? Who do you want it mapped out to? Who might be able to be in charge the older that we get? It's, again, about a word that you use a lot is protections.
Yeah, it's not about being wealthy. It's about being prepared. And being prepared and having you making decisions before someone has to make them for you. And I think it's really important for people to come in. My son is also an advisor in the office, and he does a big part of the estate planning piece of our puzzle. So if you give us a call, 844-878-1293, what we're offering to you is a no-cost, no-obligation consultation to come in, sit down with us, and talk about your estate plan. If you don't have one, we can walk you through, help you figure out which documents would be important for you to put in place. We will tell you what the pricing would be right up front. There's no cost, no obligation, just to come in and have a conversation and find out, maybe you have an estate plan, but maybe it's outdated. One of the things I ask people is, okay, do you have a trust? Do you have a will? Do you have durable documents, healthcare directives, all the things that we're going to discuss? And if you do, when's the last time they were updated? Are they clearly written? And does your family know where to locate them? That's another thing that's important. So come in, have a conversation with us. Again, no cost, no obligation, 844-878-1293.
It's really important to make sure that your financial plan is coordinated with your estate and legacy plan. And most times you have to do that with two separate professionals, but not today. You can call this phone number right now and we'll do your on-track retirement review and start your estate planning conversation with you at no cost to you. Call it right now and schedule 844-878-1293. More with financial advisor Jerry Means right after this.
We're a pretty small boutique firm. When you come into our office, it really does have a family feel to it. My wife works in the office. My son works in the office as well. We also have our dog Maui. He's kind of the mascot. When you do come in, you meet our receptionist, Jen, and we call her the director of first impressions because she's great with people. We have a small building that I own. It's very easy to pull up and see us and walk in and get greeted right away. Something that I hear from a lot of people is they just feel comfortable. They feel like they're sitting down and sitting with a friend already. We just sit down with them and educate them and tell them about our services and what we do and how we do it and try to find out if we're a good fit. A lot of my staff is family. So it is a family business, and most people that come in, that's the most important thing to them is their family. So it's good for them to see that in our environment.
Welcome back to What Retirement Means to You with financial advisor Jerry Means. He's right here in St. Louis. And right below my name right now is the phone number for you to call to schedule your own time with the team here. I've experienced this before when I've had to talk with an estate planning attorney, even just to have the initial consultation, 30 minutes, 40 minutes over the phone. They wanted a credit card and they wanted a certain amount. So to start these estate planning conversations with you as a financial advisor, is there an initial cost?
No. So when they come in and sit down with us, we do not charge them for that consultation. No cost, no obligation. And I want to remind the audience out there that I'm not an attorney. I'm in the financial planning, retirement planning business. But estate planning is such a big part of that. And so we have negotiated a deal with a law firm that has attorneys in every state, and we're able to get a discount because we get the plans in bulk and we pass that discount on to our clients. So again, when you come in, there's no cost, no obligation to sit down and discuss it with us. And if you decide to move forward, we'll let you know the pricing and what it is, but it's at a substantially deeper discount than what most attorneys will do it for because of the relationship that we have.
So there are some things our viewers can do at home. They can do right now, like looking at their own beneficiary designations, and then we need wills, and then maybe eventually we'll even get into trust. So let's talk about the nuts and bolts. What are some of the legal documents and tools that you like to have in place? And then there's that magic word probate. How do we avoid that, or is it necessarily a bad thing?
Well, the first thing that I would say is we talked about in the first segment, what is estate planning, but let's talk about what is your estate. Most people, Spike, think of the logical things, their bank account, their 401k, their house, vacation property, boats, recreational vehicles. All of those things are part of your estate. But I would challenge you to kind of open your mind and think about other things like family heirlooms. If you have china that you're wanting to leave to your kids. I had this client, she's passed away now, but she was a client of mine almost from the beginning. And she called me up one day and she said, Jerry, instead of coming into the office to do our review, would you mind coming to my house? I want to feed you lunch and I have some things I want to show you. And I thought, hey, great opportunity to get out of the office, not have to pass up a free meal. So I went to her house. We had a wonderful conversation, reviewed all of her assets. And then she said, now I want to show you what I brought you out here to see. And so we went to another wing of the house, the other half of the house, I guess I should say. And Spike, it was lined from wall to wall to wall full of dolls, like baby dolls. And she said, Jerry, I have over $1 million in this collection of baby dolls. And I'm starting to try to figure out how to liquidate these and give them to my kids because they don't want to have all these baby dolls in their house, but they understand the worth. And she actually had kind of a side hustle, side business where she was a doll doctor. So people brought her their broken dolls and she was able to fix them. You really get to meet some interesting people. It was a nice experience. But that's what I did. I helped her figure out an estate plan to where she could liquidate these dolls and transfer that money to her kids with the least amount of, probate and expenses and things like that. Because here's the thing, your 401k has a beneficiary form. Your doll collection does not.
Yeah.
So you have to think about those types of things. I have a baseball card collection with my kids, my grandkids, and I want them to pass to them. I have to have an estate plan for them. There's no beneficiary document for that. So those are the type of things that I would have you consider. Your estate is everything that you own, and you want to pass that on with the least amount of expenses and probate and so forth. And if you don't have a plan, like I said, the government has one, and it's called probate. And it's very expensive, it's very stressful, and it's public. And that's something we should talk about, is how public going through probate can be.
Well, for the entire public right now, I want to let them know we've got a phone number on the bottom of the screen, and you can call that right now, schedule an appointment, set up your time. We can start talking about what estate planning, legacy planning means to you. 844-878-1293. Well, it seems like such a specific story and great, but that is a really important conversation to start having. Do our kids or the next generation want our stuff, and in what sort of way? And that can be the lake house. That can be, how do you split mom and dad's boat?
Yeah.
Who gets the pontoon? Who gets the ski boat? I mean, these are conversations you want to have, I think in part I've heard you say before, to make sure your family stays together.
Yeah. I mean, the things that pass and go through probate are things that are non-beneficiary. So if you do have a beneficiary on your 401k, TOD on your bank accounts, transfer on death, and you can beneficiary deed your house, and you can do, at the license bureau, do TOD for your cars and boats. But as you said, what if you have 3 kids? A lot of times they only let you name one person on there. So that's where you might need other documents or have those with inside something like a trust, a living trust. A lot of people will say, Jerry, I have a will, so I'm covered. That's great that they have a will. I think they should have a will, but wills do not avoid probate. Often wills are what a probate judge will use to determine where the assets should go, but it still can delay time of the transfer of the assets. It can run up expenses of the assets, and people can contest probate. So other people can come in and contest your will and say that there's a different will. Aretha Franklin, a famous singer, she passed away. She did have a will. Actually, she had 4 of them. So it was a probate judge to decide which one of those was the most current. So that comes back to making sure that your family knows where your most current documents are. But like I said, there's some things that you can't beneficiary like that. So that's where you can have a trust that will help with that. Also, if maybe you have spendthrift kids, I had a client that came in and said, Jerry, I've got 3 kids. My 2 daughters, they got their act together. They're financially stable. They'll be responsible with the money. But Jimmy, if we leave Jimmy the money, he's going to buy a Corvette so he looks good on his way to Vegas to blow it all. And we don't want him to do that. We want Jimmy to get a payment every year for 10 years. Maybe he blows the first few payments, but eventually gets his act together and still has some type of inheritance, when he does get his act together. And then unfortunately, there are some family members that maybe that kind of money being dumped in their lap is not good for them. So you want to stipulate how they get that or have someone oversee that. You can do that with a trust document. So again, it's not for everyone, but everyone should have the conversation. And to come in to see us, it doesn't cost. There's no obligation to sit down, have that discussion, tell us what you're concerned about. Again, we're doing that, no cost, no obligation, 844-878-1293.
I've read this when it comes to estate planning, the phrase that equal is not always fair. Equal is not, and I think that's what you're talking about, is that every one of your grandchildren, your children, they have different family dynamics. And if you just say, hey, you know what, we'll let the courts figure it out. You know, I've got a will, just split everything up, you know, 3 ways between the 3 kids. Equal is not always fair. Now with the spendthrift child on that, I'm wondering if, you know, if they might feel bad, say, well, why do they get all of their money right up front and I have to have mine restricted? Are these conversations you think the parents need to have with the next generation, or is that something we'll let the legal team take care of it?
I think it can go either way. It depends on the family dynamic. You know, if they're close with their family, some of those people actually know why they're not getting their funds. They've already had that conversation.
I got this coming.
Right. They've had that conversation already, and usually they're fine with it. So I don't run into that too often.
I've heard there are some things that you should obviously put in your will, and actually things that you shouldn't, such as, am I correct on this? Your 401k. I would figure anything that is an account you would actually want named on a statement like a will, but I guess since it has a beneficiary,
no,
I'm in the wrong ballpark, right?
No, so you would want to name a direct beneficiary on your 401k or your bank accounts, or you want to have a trust be the beneficiary or own it. We'll talk a little bit more about trusts in the next segment, and then the other documents that you need, like the durable power of attorney for finance and the healthcare directive, because those are very, very important documents. Maybe save that for the third segment, but coming back to the public, that's the other thing, is if you go through probate, it's public. If it passes through a direct beneficiary or through a trust, it's non-public information. I actually had a company call me one time and said, Jerry, we have people that we think will want to invest money with you. They were trying to sell me like a lead program. And I said, well, tell me about where these leads come from. And they said, well, we go down to the county courthouse and we go through documents and we find people that have recently inherited money through probate. And so we know what they've inherited, how much they inherited, who it came from, and we want to give you those names for a fee, and then you can call them and reach out for financial advice. And to me, that just felt like, it felt like kind of dirty, right?
The ambulance chasers of estate planning.
That's a great way of putting it. So I told them, no, thank you, but it opened my eyes up to how public it is and how people are looking through those records. So if you want to protect your family and you're private and you don't want something like that happening, again, an estate plan is very important to have. You want to avoid probate if you can at all costs.
How can you protect your assets with privacy? We're going to talk about that when we get back. For right now, you can call this phone number on the bottom of the screen and schedule your appointment so you can come into the Means Financial Group and have this discussion in private and in person. 844-878-1293 is that number. More with Jerry Means right after this.
Hi there. I wanted to take a quick minute to talk about something we don't often bring up in financial conversations, but we probably should, and that's estate planning. Not just the legal paperwork, but the clarity your family might need if something unexpected happened. Here's the truth. Most families have some of their planning done, but not all of it. And often, the hard part isn't the money, it's the confusion, the decisions, and the pressure that falls on the people left behind. That's why we created something to help. It's called the Legacy Quiz, and in just a few minutes, it can give you a sense of where you stand and what areas might need attention. It's quick, easy, and you can take it right now at meanslegacy.com. Let's help make sure your plan isn't just in place, it's actually usable when it matters the most.
Welcome back to What Retirement Means to You with financial advisor Jerry Means of the Means Financial Group. From that last commercial there, I love that. It's an interactive tool, folks. It's an interactive show. You can go to that, the meanslegacy.com, and start to go through some of these questions, start to see what sort of protections that you need. And I guess maybe we'll just review it. If you have a will, great, but that doesn't mean that your assets are private. That means it's definitely going to go through the probate system. So let's talk about privacy. How do we protect our estate? And would you say that there's a dollar amount before you start talking about trusts? I mean, when do you start talking about a trust?
So, I mean, again, estate planning is part of the, encumbering all of the retirement planning. So I think it's a conversation that should be had day one. I mean, when I sit down and a client comes in or they come in and meet with one of my advisors, of course, we're getting basic information, dates of birth, where do you work, what's your income, things like that, because they're wanting us to do a financial plan. We need to know that stuff. But I also ask, who are your beneficiaries? How important is legacy to you? Some people are not worried about it, but most people will tell you, oh, I'm glad you asked that question because this is something that's been on our mind. Well, let's have that conversation now. Let's talk about that sometimes even before we get into the investments. Let's talk about what is worrying you, what is important to you. So I think it depends. It's different with everyone. Sometimes we do the estate planning on the back end. Sometimes it's the first things that we discuss. It's their appointment. It's their time to come in and sit down for that consultation. We give the time to them.
As a financial advisor, there's different kinds of portfolios, there's different kinds of investments, there's different kinds of annuities. I'm assuming there's all different kinds of trusts. Do you have something that you're more in favor of, or again, does it depend on the family dynamic?
So for the majority of the people that are watching, we're talking about living trusts. That's what the majority of people have. There is something called an irrevocable trust, but let's just talk today about the revocable living trust because it's the most common. So with the revocable living trust, you can name an asset, you can name it as the owner of an asset or the beneficiary of an asset. Now, 401ks, IRAs, any of those qualified plans cannot be owned by a trust. Big misconception, people will come in, they do have a trust and they say, I want to make it the owner of my IRA. It's not allowed by the IRS. It can be the beneficiary, but it can't be the owner. Now, it can own your home, it can own your cars, it can own vacation properties, it can own your non-qualified, your after-tax accounts.
It can own your baby doll collection.
It can own your baby doll collection, gun collection, whatever that might be.
Wine, whatever.
Whatever it is.
Your baseball cards.
I have a friend that has a very expensive tequila collection. A really nice one. So any of those different things. But the thing with that is you need to understand how a living trust works. So the parts of the living trust is you have first the grantor. That's usually you. You're the person that's setting up the trust. You're granting the assets to the trust. Then you have the trustee. Who's going to control the trust? That's also usually you or your spouse. You can have co-trustees, but then you name successor trustees. And the reason it's revocable is you can make changes. But once the original grantor, the money is given to the trust and the original trustees pass away and it goes to the successor trustees, it then becomes irrevocable. And that's the part that can protect your wishes because they can't go in and make changes to things. At that point, it's whatever your final wishes were when you passed away. And then the final part, of course, is the beneficiaries who are going to get those assets. So it's very important to understand not everyone needs the trust, but more times than not, we find out when we really start digging in that there's a reason to have one. And if you can get that at a fairly inexpensive price and protect your family, why not? And you also can do package deals where you get the will, the trust document, the power of attorney, which we should talk about, and the healthcare directive. Powers of attorney. A lot of people have told me, Jerry, I hear this a lot because of all the stuff we see with celebrities and social media. They'll say, I don't want to have a power of attorney. I'm afraid they'll steal my money. Because they hear these stories on TV like Britney Spears and all of these different examples of where power of attorneys have got into their funds and stole their money. But that's because the celebrities signed over power of attorney when they didn't need it, not because they were incapacitated, but because they were too busy. What we're talking about is a power of attorney if you're incapacitated. It has to be accompanied by a doctor's formal letter saying that you are incapacitated and that it needs to be put in place. I had a lady that called me up and she said, Jerry, I seen you talking about it on a previous show, and I'm really worried because my husband had a stroke and he's in the hospital and he's nonverbal and I'm paying all the bills and I'm bleeding through the checking account. All of our money was tied up and saved inside his 401k. I called the 401k company and I asked them for a withdrawal so that I could pay bills, and they asked for the power of attorney and I told them I didn't have one, and they said, you can't access the funds. And she said, wait a minute, I'm his spouse. Half that money's mine anyway. And I told her, well, if you divorce him, then probably half that money is yours. If he passes away, you're probably 100% beneficiary. But while he's living, if you don't have a power of attorney, it's still his account. You need the power of attorney and the letter from the doctor saying that. She was not able to access those 401ks. We weren't even able to help her. So it was a bad situation. So I'm trying to help people avoid that. The other thing is the healthcare directive. There's two different parts to the healthcare directive. There's the living benefit part of the healthcare directive, which basically says if you're in the hospital and you need someone, a healthcare agent, to make decisions on your behalf, we have this procedure we can do and here's the risks. We have this procedure we can do and here's the risks. Which one would you like to do? Who's going to make that decision for you? My wife is my healthcare agent. It doesn't have to be your spouse. It can be a brother, a sister, son, daughter. You could have co-people in there if you'd like. And then, the final part is, unfortunately, at end of life, do you want heroic measures? Do you want do not resuscitate? Again, these are not fun things to talk about, but I've seen situations where family has had them and not had them in place, and seen the difference of the outcome and the burden that the family wears when they don't have those documents. So again, it's something that you really want to do.
Yeah. On the bottom of the screen right now, we've got our phone number on here, 844-878-1293. Jerry's going to talk to you a little bit about his process, what it's like coming into the office, but we know these conversations can be a little more difficult to have, but it really is about not only protecting yourself, but protecting your family. It's really a wonderful way to show them how much you love them by having all of these things in place so they don't have to guess, so the family doesn't have to bicker later on and try to figure out, number one, where are the assets, who's supposed to get what. If you take care of this, they don't have to worry about it. So call the phone number, 844-878-1293, and schedule your time. Now, Jerry, somebody's watching this for the first time. Do you start with estate planning? Do we start with portfolio and our risk? Do we start with income planning, or does it depend on where they're at as a family?
It really depends on where you're at as a family. But in our practice, we're looking at everything. We offer this no cost, no obligation consultation. If you come in, we can discuss, what are your estate plans? What are you wanting to accomplish? But we also want to make sure that you make it to having an estate plan. So that means we need to talk about an income plan. We need to look at your tax planning. We want to make sure that you don't run out of money in retirement. These are all things that we can help you with. And just to come in, sit down, have a no pressure, no cost, no obligation consultation with us, 844-878-1293. I promise that you'll leave better off than you came in, and it'll be time well spent.
And certainly better off with information. And I know some people might feel uneasy talking about this stuff, but when you talked about even just some of the celebrities and so forth, by not having these plans in place, the mistakes that can happen, the money that can be lost, going through public courts, folks, call the phone number, call it right now, and schedule your time. We can have your estate planning conversation with you at no cost to you. 844-878-1293. Thanks for watching What Retirement Means to You. We'll be back next week.